What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy ProKat, and in today's video we are back at it again almost a year later with the updated stages of every Sea of Thieves player's video. This is one of the last videos I will be making on Sea of Thieves, so if you want to see my final videos and opinions on Sea of Thieves, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit the bell. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. This player has almost no knowledge of the seas. This is one of their first play sessions on the Sea of Thieves, and they are absolutely awful at this game. These players crash into almost every island they park at, drop anchor somewhere between 50 to 100 feet away from the island, and have no idea what most of the things in the game actually are. Most players leave the stage after the first 10 or so hours of playtime and become It is with great sadness that I inform you of the extinct status of crab players. It has been many months since I ran to an ocean crawler wearing Swabby, and I fear that they have gone extinct entirely. Kraken and parrot users remain a somewhat common occurrence, but they are much rarer than they used to be. A lot of people that would have picked the crab outfit back in the day have become Pirate Emporium enjoyers and frequently use their mommy's credit card to purchase the new hot slop that rare drops in the Emporium. These players just barely have more knowledge of the game than the rookie captain, but are still extremely brain dead and are so easy to kill that it makes me feel a little bit guilty sometimes. Everyone goes through this phase at some point. These players will either decide that the Order of Souls, Gold Hoarders, or Merchant Alliance are the greatest things to do in this game. These players can usually be found with as many cosmetics featuring their favorite trading company as possible. Skill-wise, they get much better at PvE skills like voyages and skeleton killing, but are still pretty garbage at the game. Unfortunately, this stage is where some people start to report people for toxicity for simply sinking them. These players generally fit into three categories. The Gold Hoarder is a simple man. All they really care about is that sweet cash. However, they quickly grow bored with the extremely repetitive quest system and look for something else to do. Eventually, they experience vaults and have a stroke the first time they see the sheer amount of chests in the vaults. However, these players are almost all in it for the money, so most quickly abandon it for the next stage after realizing that is the superior money method. The Order Skeleton Hunter is in it for the sweet rush of killing skeletons, as they consider it one of the most fun activities in the game. These players often get frustrated with the lack of rewards from doing bounties though, and decide to move on to fair and world events fairly quickly. The Merchant Rep starts out trying to do cargo shipments. They quickly abandon this after realizing how tedious this is and vow to never touch it again, instead moving on to lost shipments or commodity flipping, also known as the stock market. Some players stay here forever mindlessly grinding commodities, but for others, they move on to much better things. Congratulations! If you are in this stage, chances are you are the most deluded or egotistical player known to man. These players hit pirate legend and think that they are suddenly the best pirate to ever sail these waters. And while these players have improved immensely from the first few stages, they are still very bad. Some take the coward's way out, selling their soul to the demon known as Alliance servers, trapped by the curse of having infinite money and reporting anyone who dares to fight them. Others become depressed and quit the game entirely. But for some, they are driven by the desire for easy gold and move on to the Reaper's Alliance. This stage was named very specifically as these people live in perpetual fear of losing their money. These are the people who would rather run for 40 minutes than lose their one hateful bounty skull. The only reason these people touch the Reaper's bones is because they know it's the best way to get gold, but let's be clear, they are not Reapers. However, from this stage there are only two options. Some players skip straight to stage 8, becoming deeply invested in a faction, but for others, they can't handle the constant clowning on they get from actual Reapers after they're caught and sunk. They decide to go the dark side, so everyone else has to experience their pain and become. This player is your worst nightmare. This is the guy who yelled racial slurs at you in game chat when you sunk him. In fact, this is the guy who yelled racial slurs at you even when he sinks you. This dude is completely and utterly filled with rage over the fact that he has no friends and takes it out on every player he meets. He's really not even that good, but he makes up for it by once again yelling racial slurs. However, after a while, these people realize how lacking the Reaper outfit and start desiring the PvP curses, hurling them into the next stage. This guy is like a slightly less toxic version of the previous stage. He'll still make your ears bleed if you sink him, but otherwise, he's chilled out some. He entered into this stage because of his burning desire to get either the Skelly Curse or Ghost Curse, and then realized just how lacking their skills are. I think this is the biggest stage of improvement behind Kraken/Crab stage, as these people devote crazy amounts of time to getting better so they can get that sweet curse. While in this stage, these people's rage finally starts to cool, and they lose most of their toxicity by the end. Not everyone actually gets the curse in this stage, but the result is the same either way. These guys play for their faction so much trying to get the curse that they actually grow fond of it. They become deeply invested in the Flameheart versus Pirate Lord lore and really start repping their faction. These guys are always doing something for their faction and pretty much refuse to touch the other one. They improve even more, becoming actually good at the game for the first time ever and experience the joy of winning most of your fights. This is where they also learn about more god strats, such as great bucketing for a galleon, having crew rolls, using blunder bombs to move enemy ship angles, actually hitting your shots, and more. They learn to make millions and millions of gold and spam world events for quick cash. However, after a while the incessant grinding gets to them and they desperately seek a change of pace, moving into the next stage. This stage can happen in a lot of different places along a player's journey, but in my experience, this is the most common place for it to happen. These players were super burned out of pirating and ship sinking and treasuring and sailing and robo-funning and everything else, so they looked to a completely different aspect of the game. Whether they played the Pirates of the Caribbean, main story, or Monkey Island Tall Tales, they realize that they're actually a lot of fun if you take the time to play them. Some people really get into the lore during this stage, learning all about the seas that they sail on. However, a lot of players can't let go of the grind and grind a gold curse, only to realize after they get it it's not as much of a flex as it used to be. But finally, all players drift back in, refreshed and ready to start playing again. These players have done so many forts that just one world event isn't enough anymore. It's all about the biggest amount of loot you can get. These people consistently break the servers with the amount of loot they have, carrying millions of gold on their deck at a time. However, they often have to fight for their loot and become really good at the game, defending their hoard time and time again. This stage is much longer than the ones covered before, sometimes lasting up to years. However, after grinding billions of gold, they're left with boredom again and look for something to do on the seas. This stage and the last stage blur together a lot. Some players keep stacking throughout this one or start 100%ing the game at the end of the last one. These players, in their infinite boredom, decide to start completing the game. They do all sorts of obscure things, from inspecting paintings and hidden islands to sitting on chairs with other crews. Some players, after completing this, quit the game for good. Others come back just at the beginning of the season to try new content, burn out on it, and quit again. But some players manage to stick it out to achieve enlightenment. These players have learned to take it easy. They truly aren't in it for the gold anymore, and are just looking to have a good time. They will probably be aimlessly sailing around, most likely while stoned for some reason, obliterating almost any ship that dares to fire on them, and just having a good time in general. They never take the game truly seriously anymore, realizing that playstyle is no way to live. Don't be mistaken, these guys can still single-handedly sink your 2-galleon alliance while under the influence. They just won't unless you attack them first. These guys will be found on the game more after a content drop because they've done everything else, but they still play during mid-season. If you meet one of these guys, bow down. You aren't worthy. Oh, you thought that was it? Well, unfortunately, it's not. Are you sure you want to keep going?
This means total commitment. Once you begin the path, there is no leaving the path. Are you sure you're ready for that? I mean, really ready?
I guess so.
Neat. We'll start tomorrow.
Congratulations! Depending on the way your brain works, it may have taken you anywhere from just a few months to multiple years to get to this point. Now you get to start your ever downward spiral to feel any joy while playing this game, as the deep inherent flaws in both the game's foundations and the company that made it slowly begin to overwhelm you until you really start wondering if you even want to keep supporting a company that just blatantly doesn't care about so many of its users. I'm getting ahead of myself. This player got bored of Sea of Thieves again and decided that he wants to become good at the game. I mean really good. They start investigating the history of the game's competitive scene, finding out about stuff like NAL and the arena, until finally they stumble upon the last remaining bastion of comp, TDM. These players still hold on to wanting to be good at naval as well as being good at hand-to-hand. Some of these players may have TDM'd before this point, but they never really took it too seriously until now. But now, they lock in and start getting good at hand-to-hand. And for a lot of players, this is where it stops. They remain in this stage happy with themselves until they get bored of the game and quit playing. But for some, they descend a level deeper, the TDM corrupting them from the inside out. This guy is who gives TDMers a bad name. He is egotistical, toxic, and frankly not that good at the game compared to some of the more experienced TDMers. He's most likely been banned before for saying some absolutely vile things, and for once, I can say that 99% of the time, these bans are actually valid. Some of these people use cheats and FOV hacks, which, sorry to break it to you guys, is still cheating. This man single-handedly turns tens and tens of people away from TDMing, as they gain the opinion that the whole community is like that. Thankfully, not everyone goes through this stage, as a lot of people skip this one to go straight to the next one. This is a truly seasoned veteran. Hand-to-hand wise, he can go head-to-head with anyone you care to name and put up a good fight. Most of the time, he'll even beat them. He's also not an absolute raging a-hole like the previous stage and actively helps new TDMers through the process. However, because of his skill level at the game and the weird fixation newer players have with reporting people who attack them, this stage of player is often at high risk of being banned, as Rare doesn't look at the actual content of reports but simply counts them all as convicted crimes. So when someday this person has an infraction, like a mild trash talking, using an exploit, or maybe some stream sniping, this player gets banned immediately. As a result, a lot of people in the stage have had to ban evade at least once before. However, most people in the stage are pretty chill people. After receiving their first ban, these players' eyes are open to the darkness that dwells inside Rare. Some people are able to keep playing the game, but for some, this is the last straw. These players are fed up with the crap they've had to deal with Rare and SOT partners, and have finally thrown in the towel, deciding to quit the game entirely. This decision is normally a mix of pure boredom of the game and not wanting to support a game who doesn't care about them or their community. And so, these players move on to bigger and better things, retiring from Sea of Thieves for good. Everyone goes through this stage, but I put it at the end for reasons that are about to become clear. These guys leave everything behind and grind Hunter's Call and will fish for hours at a time while talking with their friends or listening to music. This can happen in between or in the middle of any stage, and sometimes people never escape from it. If you see this guy, don't sink him, he's just trying to fish, man.